The Strange and Sad Ending of Maureen O'Sullivan. Jane in Johnny Weismuller's Tarzan. Maureen O'Sullivan was a fresh-faced beauty with flowing brunette locks, and an often bikini-clad curvaceous figure. In a long acting career of 64 years and comprising over 60 films, her best-known role by far was as the heroine, Jane, in 6 of Johnny Weismuller's Tarzan films during the 1930s and early 1940s. She also became well known as the mother of Mia Farrow and so for a short time, the mother-in-law of Frank Sinatra and Woody Allen. She was born Maureen Paula O'Sullivan in Boyle, County Roscommon, Ireland, on 17 May 1911. After schooling in Dublin, Paris and London, where she was a classmate of Vivien Leigh, Maureen returned to Ireland. Her early ambition was to be a pilot, but she had always been interested in acting, and it seemed like fate when she was spotted by director Frank Borzage when both were at a horse show. At his suggestion she took a screen test and was given the substantial role of Eileen O'Brien in the film Song O' My Heart, which Borzage was filming on location in Ireland at the time. In 1930 she travelled to Hollywood to complete the movie and was immediately given another part in the film So This Is London in 1930. She was then swiftly shuffled through a series of movies with 20th Century Fox, including musicals such as Just Imagine in 1930 and A Connecticut Yankee in 1931. She was becoming noticed in Hollywood, and in 1932 she was offered a contract with MGM. After several minor roles she landed what was destined to be her signature role as Jane Parker in Tarzan the Ape Man in 1932. Freshly beautiful, O'Sullivan's Jane looks as comfortable in Paris fashion jungle outfits as the minimal skin bikini of Tarzan and his mate in 1934. Her relationship with Johnny Weismuller's Tarzan is complex, sexual but also maternal, because Jane is as intrepid in protecting her man from emotional complexities he is unequipped to deal with, as he is in defending her from rampaging wildlife, head-hunting natives, and evil white hunters. Over the next 10 years Maureen played Jane in 5 more Tarzan movies, finally slipping out of the franchise after Tarzan's Secret Treasure in 1941 and Tarzan's New York Adventure in 1942. Censorship gradually tamed the series and Jane appeared in numerous non-Tarzan films during this period, although rarely getting the quality of part her acting deserved. After the Coens and Kellys in Trouble in 1933, she was the supporting female lead in the classic The Thin Man with the highly popular Myrna Loy and William Powell, and The Barretts of Wimpole Street in 1934. In the following year she was again the second female lead in Anna Karenina with Greta Garbo and Basil Rathbone. She supported the Marx Brothers' Ina Day at the races in 1937 and then had an important role Ina Yank at Oxford with Robert Taylor and Vivien Leigh, after her part was rewritten by F. Scott Fitzgerald, who had reputedly developed a romantic admiration for Maureen. The trend of good supporting roles in all her non-Tarzan films continued with Pride and Prejudice in 1940 with Laurence Olivier and Greer Garson, and Maisie Was a Lady the following year. She had a 6-year break from movie making between 1942 and 1948 whilst she cared for her husband, John Farrow, who had been invalided out of the Canadian Navy in January 1942 with typhoid fever, and raised their young family of 7 children. Maureen returned to the movie business in The Big Clock in 1948 and the noir thriller, Where Danger Lives in 1950, both directed by her husband. For most of the 1950s she continued making occasional, unheralded movies such as Bonzo Goes to College in 1952, Men Behind Bars in 1954, The Tall Tea in 1957 and Wild Heritage the following year, after which she decided to retire from movie making. On movie retirement she began another career on the stage in 1961 with The Playa Roomful of Roses, and the following year she made her Broadway debut at the Playhouse Theatre in Never Too Late, co-starring with Paul Ford. The play ran for over 1,000 performances until April 1965 when Maureen was persuaded to return to the big screen to make the movie version of the play. She also starred on Broadway in the British comedy No Sex Please, We're British in 1973. She continued with her successful career in television, which she had started in 1952 in an episode of Hollywood Opening Night, and for the rest of her career she made frequent appearances in programs such as Lux Video Theater, the Ford Television Theater, Ben Casey right up to 1994 in Heart to Heart. She also briefly hosted a television show, called Irish Heritage. Maureen made a surprise cameo appearance in a very forgettable horror film in 1985, called Too Scared to Scream, starring Mike Connors and Ian McShane, and the following year appeared in her last two movies Peggy Sue Got Married and, with her daughter, Mia Farrow, Hannah and her sisters. In her personal life, Maureen was a beautiful, highly intelligent girl with a lively, engaging personality, and she was romantically involved with several actors before her marriage, including Dick Haymes and James Dunn. She also had a brief affair with her Tarzan co-star, Johnny Weismuller, in 1932. She married twice. Her first husband was the Australian writer and award-winning film director, John Farrow, with whom she had 7 children, 2 of whom, Mia Farrow and Tia Farrow, became actresses. The marriage ended with John Farrow's death in 1963. Later in the decade she became involved with actor Robert Ryan, but with wedding plans in the air he fell ill and died in 1973. Maureen married again in 1983, to James Cushing, a building contractor. The marriage ended with her death. Maureen OSullivan died in Scottsdale, Arizona of a heart attack, on June 23, 1998 at the age was 87. Rest in peace Maureen OSullivan. Goodbye.